Senate Appropriations, and we're continuing our walkthrough of the budget as passed out of House Appropriations, which is coming to the floor for second reading
tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
It's on introduced yesterday, on notice today.
Okay.
Second, third reading tomorrow, Friday.
So yesterday, we got as far as line 33 on this summary sheet. So we're going to keep going.
This is the general fund base summary sheet that we're working on right now. The front part of the long legal document.
Okay.
And just a refresher, the top part of the sheet is the revenue changes, and that does include way up at the top in green the change in the property transfer tax amounts that the House put through to the housing and planning. And I didn't have the total for you. It's $1.6 million up for regional planning, and another $400,000 up in the municipal planning. So compared to last year.
And 400 for municipal.
Yeah. Some of that was included in the governor's, but most of it was not.
The other thing I don't understand, and that is, I'm sorry, I've got on line 35. Okay. I'll hold that thought.
Okay. So we were walking through after the yellow line on this, which gives you the available revenue. The comparison of the base budget, the House versus the governor's proposals and various initiatives that are related to the base budget in the general fund. And we got down to line 33, which is the AIDS client-based support, where you see the House adding 295 to the base.
Request in the public testimony for that.
I can't remember that. And my question with, around that is, the governor does have an initiative around vaccines. Is that?
I don't think. No, that's I think adding to the one that goes out to the HIV/AIDS.
No, I know this is different than that, but I think the governor, there was a vaccine initiative within their in the governor's proposal, and I was wondering where that is.
And so the next line down is the HIV prevention and syringe exchange, and I don't know if vaccine's a part of that.
There was that vaccine funding in the budget adjustment. Remember that we
yes,
reduced.
But they as I went through the budget with the health department, they specifically laid out the vaccine piece, and
need it general fund though? This is just general.
No, I don't think it was all just general fund, but I'm gonna have to go back and check.
So these are new ads that the House is adding on top of what the governor recommended in his base budget.
But there's nothing here
as a general fund initiative for vaccines specifically.
No, and there's nothing there from the governor either.
Yeah.
He did nothing for the AIDS stuff?
Only what was probably already in the base budget.
Yeah. If the vaccines don't require general fund, because some of our vaccines are all federally, then it wouldn't show up here because this is general fund only.
Yep, I got it.
Yeah. But the next three that are under 313, 35, 36, 37, the governor had an $8 million SUD proposal, of which the Jenna House was $500,000. That is the Jenna House has been separated out. The House funded that at $100,000 less than $400,000, and then the remaining SUD proposal from the House, you see they sort of broke it apart into pieces, and we have a detailed sheet on that. There's another bill, H728, that has a portion of the SUD money running in it. You do see the rate increase, which the 880 is just the match for the rate increase.
Yeah, and the bill is that mobile unit.
Yeah, that's on the mental health side.
No, that's on that's
SUD.
separate from that. There's a mental health mobile unit, and then they have in that bill a mobile unit for drug treatment.
What's SUD?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
it's a mobile substance abuse.
Yeah.
And then when we get to the one-time list of the general fund, you'll see some additional money there as well.
So I want to go back to Jenna's house. My understanding, and I met with Jeffrey Tatro, but that was a one-time request. And that they,
It's,
oh, well, I mean, for 3 years,
yes,
but it's not ongoing. So my question is, why do we keep that in the base as opposed to having it one-time general fund, knowing that it was going to support a 3-year program, after which I asked him specifically, is this ongoing obligation? They said, no, they wrote a grant and this would be for.
this is supplementing the grant to get.
So that's a choice, I mean, this is the first, I believe the governor or the administration chose to put it into the base because it is 3 years. You could,
I could take one-time money of 500,000 and allow it to be used over a
Yeah.
3-year period of time.
Yeah, you could.
Okay, that's all I'm asking. But your understanding's the same.
It's a 3-year,
Yeah.
500,000.
total, not 1.5.
It's 1.5 total over the 3 years.
So that's the difference, it's.
Oh, it's 1.5?
It's 500 this year, 500 next year.
Oh, I thought it was 500 in
Yeah.
total. Oh, it's a
So
million.
that's why they
Oh,
placed it in the
okay,
base.
all right, okay,
In that
all
way.
right. That's helpful.
And that represents the funding to help create
We can
8
do,
beds.
we can do 3 years funding. We don't have to stay within, like the 2
Well,
years.
You can allow it to be carried forward.
And this, by placing this funding in the base, it means you're starting with it in next year as opposed to having to add it.
So it'll be there until it's taken out.
Yeah, and so in theory, when the grant period is up and this program does not need or is not funded, that in that year you would see a down or a reallocation in the ups and downs.
I don't know if I've actually seen a written proposal. Have you seen it?
From Genesis?
Sounds-
Yes, I've got.
All right, because I,
6 beds, section.
it's,
8 beds.
well, it's got,
It's got, but it has a residential component. It has,
I thought it had 9 level 3 beds.
well, I think that this stabilizes 8 new beds.
Is that on top of the 9 currently in
I
place?
think that might be on top of the 9, and they also have a coffee shop. So it's the counseling, it's the whole ball of wax.
It is, if you were developing a system from scratch, it would be what you would put together in terms of all the components necessary to support successful recovery. So it's stable housing, employment, counseling, recovery support, training, et cetera, all organized in one place. And then good connections, working relationships with Lemoyle County Mental Health
And
and the recovery center, so.
because most of these people are coming to them through the recovery
But
center.
if we could get 17 beds, you said?
They may have 9 already.
They already have beds.
Level
Yeah, but
3,
this is gonna add more.
I believe that's right.
That's a lot cheaper than we can do it at the state level.
Well, it's cheaper because they already have their own money that they put in, plus money they raised and other grant money. This is really the piece that they're short.
So it's a very comprehensive program. It's-
But there's also in this, and
I think it's also a desire to get it Medicaid coverable.
there's also in this another 59 beds in,
The silver, that's the amendment that's actually happening on the floor, it somehow got left out, and that's what's been.
yeah, that's not on here either.
Well, it's embedded in that,
In the 7,
in
going
the,
from the 16.
in the 7, it's in the 1.892 plus the pieces that are in the 728 bill, I think.
Okay, that's where they're adding more
Yeah, they,
Well, we're-
step down beds.
Yeah.
Step down
Yeah.
beds.
They're doing in 2 pieces in one's lower level and one's a higher level, but there's really 2 pieces to
But
it.
this is
And there's 59 beds in total
in that
around the state.
around the whole state.
Yeah, okay. we've expanded beyond Jenna's house when we're talking about those beds. I
Yeah.
think there was some discussion about a facility down in your neighborhood, Alice.
Well, there's Trey Antanasio's, place.
Was it an old ski, was it?
It was,
something with a
it was
ski lawn?
part of a big hotel. Fox Run Golf, when it opened, had that. And it then was the weight control center that was run for years, Green Mountain Weight Control Center. It's a big, beautiful building. And he bought it and he shares the septic with the golf course, which a guy from New York bought and is spending a fortune. Well, right now, I mean, hope the thing gets going, the town approved it. But the owner of the golf course, who owns a golf course, Tater Hill in another town, would like the drug center to trade, trade the building that's next to the golf course to the golf course and have Trey take the one in Wyndham that's at that golf course that's now defunct. I mean, that was really pretty remote. Whereas this one's right on Route 103, it could be more easily accessed. So I don't know what's gonna happen there. But that's gonna be a big place if you can.
Is there, I think it's really hard to keep all the different pieces together in terms of what is getting funded. Is
So
there
there is a
breakdown
sheet,
that can help
there is a
us?
sheet on the SU, on the, yeah, substance use related pieces, there is a sheet.
Could we get that?
Yes.
We obviously had what the governor proposed, but with the, on 1.9,
Yeah.
what that looks like.
I've got a sheet.
From
Could that-
1.9?
Yeah, it's a tab in one of Sarah's sheets, and we'll print it out for you.
So is that where the Serenity House in Wallingford, which has been there forever, might be included, and their recovery house in Rutland?
No, that's up on line 36, that would be residential treatment. The increase, the rate increase there, so
Okay.
Yeah, this is for new,
this is for new things.
expansion. Okay. Suicide mobile, that actually it gets the higher Medicaid match. That was an
So
incentive.
the way it looks like it's straight up general fund. There's language in, and we put language in last year. There's 2 years left under the ARPA.
Oh, we had told them to design it in such a way that it met the Medicaid.
Yeah, but it doesn't look built in as a Medicaid item. And so the House agreed with the same 1.9 that the governor built in. I think there's something where they're redrawing that, but it's like an 85% match.
I
And
thought there
there's
was
two
something.
years left on that. So I'll talk to Sarah as well, but it doesn't, as it was presented, it did not look like it was matched up.
But then when you fall off the cliff, when the 85 falls to 55,
Back down to the 55.
Yeah.
yes.
So here in this, since we're just in the middle of the health department, where would the one-time be? Because as I understand it, it's on your small.
The small sheet of one time.
I'll wait then, because I know that the committee did put one-time money
Yeah,
into the
and
recovery.
the summary sheet on
Sorry.
the substance use stuff combines both. So you can see the whole picture of the base pieces and the one-time pieces.
But right now, we're dealing with base appropriations, general fund only.
Sorry, but I just find that doing level funding the recovery centers for 5 years in a row, unacceptable, just so.
Well, we did give them some money, but it was all one
It
time.
was all one time. It's hard for,
I know, and they haven't even had, I routinely would go to the recovery center because they would have spaghetti dinners and I'd bring dessert and we'd have and it's hard to, when you go, a woman said, I just got picked up for faulty equipment. My headlight was out. And they said, oh, well, you can get a new headlight for $5 or something. And she said, I don't have any money until the beginning of the month. So she was talking about how little, and we were talking about earlier, how little advocacy there is for our lowest income people. There used to be, in terms of annual increases to what used to be the old ANFC program, which is now Reach Up. And on the AABD, that used to be routinely increased every year. And AABD hasn't been touched, I don't think, in 25 years. It's been a long
But
time.
I only bring that up in this, that we're doing all of this stuff that's, and usually for most of these people, the way in the door for treatment is coming to the recovery centers.
I know.
They're the front door, and we can't give them a base increase, but we give everybody else.
Well, we haven't made our final decisions and we
Yeah,
may
this is
move
just
some money around.
I'm just making my pitch to get started.
Well, if you go back to line 25, I think we might make some changes there.
Yeah.
So let's keep going.
It's a pitching copy.
Yeah.
That was well done.
The House also agreed with the suicide prevention increase that was in the governor's, that's on line 39. On line 40, we're going into DCF.
Mhm.
And so they're adding 130 because they're postponing the elimination of the medical review team.
For the incapacitated.
And they agree with the increase on the family first prevention services and the family services line item of almost 1.8, as well as the foster care rate increases. And then going down into child development, they agree with the CCFAP, the child care subsidy rate increase, but they did not do the nearly $7 million that the governor recommended for the
After school.
at the school age.
Yeah, but they get the tax credit, so why would they, we can't do everything.
Well, plus they get the
With it.
cannabis.
Yeah, I was gonna say, once the revenues start coming in, we actually dedicate 30% of
Yeah.
the
Excise.
excise tax to after-school programs, so.
They did in child development, increase the children's integrated services. I don't have the details on
Well,
what that
they
increase is.
testified on that.
They funded $400,000, the volunteer income tax assistance program, which is done out of the CAP agencies.
Mhm.
So, who are we paying?
So the
Since we have
grants would go out
volunteers.
to the CAPs and the CAPs would, I don't know,
They would.
organizing the program or if there's some sort of stipend to the volunteers.
I thought
RSVP did that.
say RSVP or AARP. did
Yeah, I
that.
thought they did that.
And I know a number of people that have been volunteers for years, and so.
They do it at Senior Solutions too, I think.
We can find out if there's a memo on it, but I also think there's
I'd really like information on that because I know a lot of groups that do it.
there are a lot of people that come in, especially through the housing, are now
Yep.
touching CAP agency, so it might be a need they're seeing as people.
I don't know, I guess, we didn't get any here,
It's on
requests.
my list to figure it out.
No, but we didn't,
Yeah.
my question was, I don't remember getting a request in our public hearing or a separate email, no. The other thing that's always helpful is if the House had followed up with an agency and gotten information.
Yeah.
It would have the benefit of
We
that.
can, we'll scrub their web, the
If you could.
committee, just to make sure, and then I'll talk to Maria and Sarah. to
Yeah,
understand
it's
if there are
very
things that
helpful,
go-
because sometimes, I know, Human Services had,
It responds to the series.
yeah, and having the benefit of that information avoided duplicate requests. This is the request that we did get in public hearing, the 100,000 for
Yeah.
blind and visually
And the
handicapped
and the
training.
and then the equipment.
All right, DLC, constituency services.
That's good one. That really is necessary. They get so many requests. I'm okay with that. I'm
Well,
okay. Actually, I agree with the governor on the next one.
well, we do too, but we'll never win that one.
That would be fun.
Well,
We may have to figure out another way of getting something in return.
Well, with the surplus, the inside.
All right, so,
much of a surplus is in the ed fund?
96, 97 million. But so much of that is a result of consumption taxes being so much higher. It's,
And so I would think, you know, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but I just think this whole argument is silly.
It's education.
I know, I agree. Well, we'll keep going.
Down to line
DOL.
50, the DOL, they did reduce the operating increase in the
By
UI.
the 12 million?
Yes, and they also embedded in that, I think, was also this work-based
Okay.
learning program, which they moved into their H703 bill in one-time money.
So my question is, we don't have anything there for the governor's proposed figure.
But the governor's proposed figure is embedded up in the 1.8 because it's sort of a steady state. We should have carried the 12 million, I think, separately, but the way this was constructed, it was included up in that 1.8 billion base.
Oh, all right.
Because it was to cover operating, not necessarily a new initiative.
All right. But it's a big, it's
It's
a
a
new,
big- yeah,
new
you're right.
thing on the general
Yeah.
fund.
Yeah. So it could have, you know, that could have been shrunk by the $12 million brought down.
Well, it's just a 2.5 against what? It's kind of.
Yeah.
Okay. So on what basis did they say it would cost less to administer? the
I will
UI?
find out what they're thinking
Or,
is.
or.
So it consists of two pieces, if we.
I know, but I thought the UI and by itself was around 12 million.
So that's, we'll pull down the note from the web report system.
All right.
In AOE in 501, line 51, the governor had funded the child nutrition program, the nutrition position in one time, and the House had moved it into the base because that's where it belongs.
Okay. Then the existing positions just moved to the base. Retirement system.
So you'll see in the one time, we embedded in the budget in the House, the expected budgetary 23 changes related to the pension bill. And so this is the one general fund piece that would go down for the teacher's pension because of the portion of the COLA changes that are estimated. This could change a little bit with a new actuarial estimate, but that's our current estimate of the change in the baseline. Most of the contributions and a little bit of the COLA,
So this is the increased employee contribution.
no,
No?
that would all happen on the ed fund for teachers.
Oh,
Because
this
that's
is
normal
teachers, I'm
cost.
sorry. What is,
So this is the unfunded liability.
oh,
The cost of unfunded liability in 23 goes down a little bit with the changes in the COLA, the base changes in the COLA, the change from 0 to 4 from
okay, all right.
from 1 to 5.
Mhm.
So the average goes down. And so this is the estimate of it's the internal estimate based on all the other runs they did for the general fund.
All right, well, we've used it other places. Okay, UVM, they kept it.
UVM, it stayed the same as the governor, and you see in the state colleges, they brought that up to UVM level in the base. And then at BSAC, they left that $1 million ad for the advancement grants. They put their dollar in for the Morgan Horse Farm, the governor always comes out with it not included in the budget. And then,
A big win for Addison County, isn't it?
and they did remove from the existing base, and that's why there's a 0, there's $1 million for the new remote worker baseline in ACCD. And Senator Sorokin's committee is aware of that in their summary.
Where's it going?
I've never liked that program. I was on the committee when we were discussing it, and I didn't really support it. But I just wonder, now that we have our housing market is red hot because everybody wants to come in, why are we paying and ponying up millions of dollars
Why are
to
we?
pay their
We
expenses?
have plenty of people that moved here without this and
Yeah.
are still here.
Yeah, it irks me.
We don't need
So the
this.
House's decision here is basically to take it out of the base as a program.
We've always funded it with one time.
Well, there is a baseline amount of money in there that the administration has done over the years.
Is there?
Yeah, I think it was, I think,
Well, for the last 5 or so. Yeah.
Well, I don't know, we started out with one-time money. But
we did
at
start
some
out
point,
with
we
one-time
actually
money
put some
and
of
then
it into the base?
I believe we did, you'll see it in their detail for the budget.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but the House has taken it out.
I would
This
even
action.
put one-time money to it.
And the House did not do that either,
Yeah,
although I think the committee down the hall on the Senate side is considering.
Oh, that's right.
keeping one
I mean, I don't think that that's a hill the governor wants to die on. You know.
It seems like COVID and climate change have done more to bring
Yeah.
people into the state of Vermont than anything that we could do.
And the thing is,
Oh,
they're gonna use the statistics of people who come in.
I'm counted to this.
Right,
It's not why they came.
so,
I mean, some people did come, but the fact is, many, many more people came due to COVID, and
And
they're
then-
still here.
and then they find out mid-move that they can get their expenses paid.
It's ridiculous.
Well, and the other thing too is our broadband has become much more robust. It's not perfect, but they're discovering that they can work remotely, so work patterns have changed. And as expensive as we think housing is, I know people who rent in my area and their employer is Boston.
Mhm.
And because Boston housing, you can imagine, is so expensive and their job they can do remotely. So,
Well, Reggie, I think you said Stowe's population went up by almost 1,000 during the pandemic when they did the census.
So did
That
mine,
threw
so did
Nolan
ours.
County out of whack
Oh, probably.
because of the census.
So did ours go up, yeah, I was surprised. But
well,
it did go
I
up.
guess we're agreeing with the House on that for now.
Yeah,
All right.
And
next
they
one
did
is-
leave in the reduction in debt service because we did put that debt piece in the budget adjustment, even though we didn't specify the callable bonds. So they did not put language in to specify the callable bonds, you may want to consider that when we get to it.
They took the savings.
They took the savings because the money is sitting there in the waterfall.
Uh-huh.
So that's, the front is the base, and then when you flip the sheet over, you see the total base appropriation at the top. They do have several other bills that have base money running in them, and you see those listed there. The clean heat standard being the biggest, but you also see in 728, there's additional 888 for the opioid overdose response service. That is probably, it has the mobile piece embedded in it as well that you were speaking of.
Well, that would be mobile because you're going to where people are.
But you see, they did the truth and reconciliation, which that is only the FY '25 amount. Fiscal note is total, when it comes to, it's a 3.5-year program. It'll be $1.3 million a year, about $4.5 million total for that bill.
For how long?
3.5 years.
And is that supporting a commission?
It's commission, it sets up the sort of the nominating panel. There's an appointment panel to the nominating panel picks the commissioners. And then it sets up the office for the commission to be it should be up and running by January. The appointment process is through July through December, although the nominating stretch another 2 months. And then the commission itself is 3 commissioners plus staff, and space, and then they can have up to 30 committee members that are basically volunteers with $1,000 a year stipend.
What is this for?
Oh, you're doing it.
To review, it's basically modeled on the South Africa to review past state
Wrong.
It
wrongs.
would be probably like eugenics, it would be like,
For God's sakes,
Yeah, it just seems like a huge amount of money.
that's a
And-
lot of people.
And again, we're back to do we create 2 standards of pay for different sorts of commissions and boards? If we're gonna
So,
pay,
yeah, the commissioners here would be at half a superior court judge, commissioners, and then an executive director, researcher, legal, administrative, and then I did the fiscal note on it. It's some estimate on space and operating, and they're able to contract for researchers. And I don't know what the committee, as the process goes through the 3.5 years, the committees can commission the research and that's the public processes. So it's a structured bill that I don't know where it is in the process. It did come out of, came out of the General Affairs Committee, the House Appropriations passed it out. I don't know if it's come over to you yet or not.
One would think you'd do the research first, so you could identify sort of the universe of
Right.
people who have been subjected, right, who have been wrong, either by, discriminatory,
So I think that
policies or whatever.
the commission itself is the research part of it in a sense, but they can also have additional.
But I suppose, take eugenics, right? So the same committee issued an apology.
Yeah.
A resolution of apology, which was read on the State House steps and other things. So is the idea that model is insufficient, that we then have to run?
I don't have an answer.
So who's proposing?
It's a bill that came out of the House.
Page 96.
Yeah.
Doesn't this have 3 judges in a panel?
The 3 commissioners they are paid, they have a 3.5-year commitment, and they're paid at the level of 50% of a Superior Court judge. And then they have 4 staff underneath, 3 or 4 staff underneath
And
them.
how do you determine what you need for staffing capacity until you have some
Right.
sense of the extent of injury, injured population?
I'm not the wrong person to ask.
I know, I don't know.
I know it's done, the structure of the bill is.
Would this go to your committee, Dick?
20-odd years.
Or it might go to GovOps.
You're muted, Dick.
Damien's the drafter of it.
Muted.
I had to fix it myself.
Not a general and military affairs.
I know, but would this, get referred to judiciary or where would,
Or GovOps.
or GovOps?
I hope.
I don't know. It just passed today, 3rd reading.
Yeah.
So it was a roll call.
No, it came out of the
And-
meeting last week.
No, excuse me, a roll, 3rd reading was ordered.
Okay.
And so it's not even past 3rd reading, but the roll call was 109 to 30.
But I know these aren't questions for Stephanie, but one question I have is why do you need judges to be sitting on this? Why couldn't you structure it as the rest of our boards and commissions tend to be done, with people with some expertise that they can bring to it, or just goodwill that they bring to it, and they conduct public listening and issue a report? It seems like we're setting up a quasi-state governmental entity. And the only reason I can see why you would do that is if you were laying the groundwork for reparations for some massive wrong. Otherwise, it seems like we've been going down the road of, for instance, the apology for eugenics. What more could the state do? I don't see on the eugenics question what more you could do.
They want to pay descendants, I guess. Right? Do they want to pay
I
descendants?
suppose so, but that would be a fair question.
They were able to have it. Yeah,
Is it a,
well, that's why I'm asking what committee is gonna grapple with it
Yeah.
in the Senate, but this is,
I know Damien's the drafter of it, so he might be able to,
but that it's gotta go to a Senate committee and where all this will have to be weighed out.
So is this the same as the reparations bill? Is that what it's called, really?
well,
right now.
I suspect it's in the same universe of things, and it's like which would go forward first.
So you're thinking that's a separate bill?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't think, this is just setting up this commission.
I see.
Yeah, Representative
Do the
Chino
work.
has another bill about reparations.
I see.
But I wouldn't be surprised if this is to, occupy the ground before the legislature might consider reparations. But, I don't know, it just seems like
It looks like
the most
very
expensive.
complex system. I'm just looking at the bill. It's very,
Yeah.
$750,000.
And they're, we can print out a fiscal note if you're interested.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna keep going because we obviously are gonna.
Just this list of bills, I don't know enough about a lot of them. I know there's a fiscal note on the H-464. There must, I know there's a fiscal note on the clean heat standard and the 728. got a note on it. I don't know if the Natural Resource Board has one.
I don't
And the
understand.
regional statistics one also has a note that we can print out, but you'll deal with those as they come to you.
It just, what I don't understand is the medical review, they built back 130 in savings, and now they've got a bill that's gonna cost $500,000 more for medical review.
I don't have enough detail on it.
Yeah.
The 130 was something that got added at the last minute yesterday.
It just seems like a lot considering.
But most, all of these bills are in this list because they're considered
Okay.
ongoing
Yeah.
in nature.
Mhm.
So they're part of the base total.
Well, we've got some that we've passed.
Yeah.
That we're gonna have to account for, including the environmental justice. And the, we did,
I have them all
Yeah.
down on a sheet. They're actually starting in a spreadsheet, as well as the things like the pieces that you have to put into the budget, like the 75 and 75 for the dual enrollment. Yeah, those types of things are all accounted for.
okay.
And then we go to the one times, which are these lump sum numbers you see here, but those are all listed on the short sheet that I handed out. The sheet that looks like this one. And so the bill, one-time structure of the bill is typical. The B1100 is the typical one-time section of the bill for general fund. And so what you see here are all the one-time general fund items. There are general fund items embedded with some of the ARPA pieces, particularly in climate change and in the G300 section where the workforce bill is being accounted, it's being referenced so that we're keeping the same structure of last year where G300 is investments in economy, community, and workforce. And so that particular area has a mix of ARPA and general fund. Because the nature of some of the investments that the governor proposed, particularly around incentives and EV infrastructure, are probably not ARPA eligible. Those were swapped out to general fund. I don't know what the committee's preference is. You can see the items. I just highlighted green some of the ones that were significantly different. Also on the bottom of the long sheet, just because I had room, and just in case you were wondering, I listed the items that the governor had proposed either in ARPA or general fund that were not funded at all by the House. And they're mostly in that economic development area, but also in ARPA. The governor had proposed a total of $70 million related to housing. They only did the VHCB portion, and they didn't leave capacity to do any more in housing.
They didn't do any of the mixed housing?
No, they didn't do anything, or the pieces that are in the 226 bill,
Or the missing middle?
they did not. They did not do. They didn't include it in the budget, and they don't have a bill that does it, unless they're. But they also don't have capacity to do it out of ARPA.
I still have questions about that program myself.
So it's nearly 4 o'clock. And so I'm just wondering whether we want to get started on this sheet or should we just keep it for?
I mean, you'll be running through the bill. It's for reference and you can, see. This sheet is not set up as if it's the House compared to the governor the way the other sheet was. Yeah. This sheet is simply the list of one times in the House.
So let me ask, on broadband, the governor had recommended, I think, 95 million.
Yeah, you see at the top of the back of the.
It's 69, almost 70.
So they did
But it says
70 here, but they also did 25 over in the capital ARPA money. So they stayed at the same 95 as the governor.
That's because of their retirement.
All right.
Well, in light of our meeting tomorrow at noontime, Stephanie, what is the Department of Public Safety reserve of 11 million?
So that is the 3 million that they took out of the base plus the $8 million.
It's a change in the dispatch.
The dispatch.
So that's the main issue I want to talk about with Commissioner tomorrow then.
So they have not spent the money elsewhere. They have appropriated it to public safety.
But they've
They
reserved.
say you can't spend that until there is an approved plan next year by the legislature.
All right.
So rather than attempting to go into this sheet at 4 o'clock, I'm going to suggest that we've had a long day and now's a good time to adjourn the